Hey guys, Farmer Jesse here. I want to talk a little bit today about interplanting. What it is, how we use it, why it's an integral part of our no-till system. And I also want to share a few success stories and a few just really spectacular failures. So let's do it. So what is interplanting? Interplanting is the act of planting two different crops that may be of the same family, generally not, in the same row or bed at the same time. All right, now there's several different reasons why somebody may use interplanting. So one reason would be companion planting. This is a popular form of interplanting. Now, companion planting is essentially planting two different crops or three different crops. It may benefit each other or may repel insects. One may benefit the other one more, but they usually have some sort of symbiosis. An example of that may be planting, I don't know, a flower like marigolds with a crop to repel pests. Another example is the Three Sisters. This is the most famous example of planting corn, pole beans, and squash together, some sort of winter squash, and they were all in the same bed or same row, and the idea being that the pole beans will climb up the corn, or the pumpkins, or the winter squash sort of shades the ground and keeps it moist. And there's also some, a lot of people say that the beans, legumes are very famous for fixing nitrogen, and a lot of people say that helps feed the corn. The reason that we don't do a lot of companion planting like that is primarily because that stuff is really complicated. Most bean breeders are not breeding them for nitrogen fixation, they're breeding them for yield. So there's a lot of the beans and nitrogen that it's fixing nitrogen, certainly, especially if you have a lot of rhizobium bacteria but in your soil, which is great. But what it's really doing is that it's probably using the majority of that nitrogen for itself. So we don't do a lot of that sort of stuff, that sort of companion planting. I love that stuff. I think that's really cool, and if you can figure out a way to do it, you should. But same with the marigolds. Like, marigolds have actually been shown to maybe attract pests as well as repel them. So, be cautious with that sort of thing. Sorry, it's raining. Sorry about the smudges. The Three Sisters thing is really cool just because it's, it has a lot of tradition behind it. There's a lot of mythology behind why the Three Sisters, from the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois did it, and I think it's really cool. I think if you can do that, go for it. It's super cool. And I know people that have good success doing it. So, it's not that it won't work. I think that you really kind of have to have really good fertile soil with a lot of microbial life and a lot of fungal life to really make it functional, but it's a cool thing to do. We use interplanting more for utility. An example of utility might be you're using one crop to provide something else for the other that's more structural. So yeah, that could be, beans climbing up a pole, like a corn stalk, like a dent corn. But it could also be something like shade. For instance, with Everbed, we planted young lettuce transplants under celery, and the goal was to have the celery providing a little bit of shade for those little transplants to get established in the middle of the summertime. We also did that a little bit with corn, and using a little bit of corn for shade as a sort of annual hedgerow. And the idea there was that, corn kind of has a nice shady underneath, so I put two rows of corn together in one bed pretty closely, and then I planted one row on the south side of lettuce. So it got a little afternoon shade, but it also got a little bit of shade, just from the foliage to let that lettuce crop get established. And another way I really love to use interplanting is, I saw this video a while back from Curtis Stone about time stacking, and that's a cool idea. Essentially, you're waiting on a crop to mature, you have another crop that's kind of coming up underneath it. One of the things that we often use for this specific situation, for time stacking, or we'll take broccoli, we'll put that in the early spring, and then we'll sow radishes right down the middle of the broccoli. It's the same crop family, right, brassicas, but we get those radishes out long before they are even close to shading out the broccoli. So the broccoli, we're getting a harvest while we're waiting on that broccoli to mature, and that's a great way to actually make broccoli even mildly profitable, is to actually have a second or even third crop coming out of that broccoli bed. This year we sowed edamame between the broccoli, and so when the broccoli came out, we didn't this year, but we could have planted lettuce where like in between where the broccoli were, so then we would have had a constant supply of a different crop, which I think is kind of cool. That is a very big portion of the premise of the everbed system, but like I said, video coming later. So let's talk about some of our successes. The success, obviously the lettuce one in the celery and everbed was a success. Also, we followed that with green onions, which green onions generally this year have been successful across the board. That is my favorite intercrop crop right now because they're fast, they don't need a lot of work, they grow straight up, so they don't shade anything out. They're really good intercrop, and I think if you have a little space, if you're trying to, grow a longer season crop, to have something like onions around, it just makes all the difference. So for instance, that's what we're doing right here. There's red Russian kale on either side, and then right down the middle, we've got a row of green onions, because those green onions will grow up while the red Russian kale is growing up, and when they're both kind of reaching maturity, we can pull all those onions and let the canopy of the red Russian sort of take over. Successes are successes, and then we have some really good failures. The chard bed. This one right here, which I just cleaned up really well the other day. What we tried to do here is we tried to have chard in the spring, and then we wanted to keep it around for the fall. My buddy Pavel told me that you get this really great chard crop if you leave it in the ground and not replant it. So that's what we tried to do, but I didn't want to just leave this bed bare all season. So what I did was, we planted lettuce in between all the chard plants and in the middle. So it was basically like 3 rows, almost 4. We did a 4th row on the edge. That sort of worked. But ultimately, I think on a 100-foot bed, we got something like maybe 10 pounds of lettuce, which is really bad yield. For that sort of spacing and that sort of crop, that's probably 60–70% shy of where we needed to be on the yield. And then the chard didn't do very well, the lettuce didn't do very well, it was kind of bitter, a lot of it just bolted, while other crops around it were doing great, so it was just not the best. So yeah, not the best. You want another failure? I got you. This one, what happened with this one was, this crop in particular is not a great intercrop crop in general. I'm deciding that now because the 2 times that we've tried it have been kind of a failure. So these green onions right here are actually part of an interplant. So they look pretty rough. They look like somebody kind of abused them a little bit, and that somebody would be Basil. We had Basil here, and we interplanted it with onions, and it just straight up, it was Genovese basil, and it just straight up shaded the fire out of them. Now they're kind of recovering. We'll be able to get a yield off these. But I was kind of thinking they would grow fast enough that I could pull them out and it wouldn't be a problem, but the basil just went nuts, and we have a little bit more. That big thing right there, that's all basil up there, and that is currently shading out some of our perennial herbs. So not a great intercrop. It's not one I'm going to be using anytime soon. And like I said, the intercropping is important to what we're trying to do, because we're trying to keep as many beds in production at all times for all year as we can. So what that really involves is a little bit or a lot of interplanting. Like I said, this one right here with the kale in it, that's just went in this week, that is everbed, and everbed is kind of, we're going to talk a whole thing on everbed, but everbed's whole thing is interplanting. It's constantly having a crop that is photosynthesizing as much as possible in the bed. So that's one benefit of interplanting, is that it maximizes photosynthesis. It's maximizing your bed space, generating a lot of exudates from the roots to feed your soil microbes. And in a no-till system, that is essential, because you're keeping all that fungal life, all that bacteria well fed. So intercropping in that sense not only gives you a second crop or uses space that's not being used at the time, but it's also maximizing the sunlight. So it's making the most out of that sunlight. going forward, how we're going to be using it, interplanting, is that we're going to continue with the green onion thing. I really like that. We'll probably still use the celery lettuce mix. I kind of like that one. The chard one, obviously we're going to rethink that a little bit. Maybe I could do some onions in there. I may not do anything. I may not do the chard thing next year. We'll see. It just takes up a bed for an entire season. That's a lot. It's not like chard is that profitable. But going forward, one of the big crops that we're going to do this with is tomatoes. Tomatoes are really slow, so we're going to try and plant some things on the side of them and maybe in between them if we're doing them in the field, to just maximize that bed space while the tomatoes are getting up to production, because it takes 50-60 days for them to even really start flowering. So in that 50-60 day period, it'd be nice to have a crop coming out of the ground. So that crop could be radishes, could be lettuce, could be beets, could be green onions, it could be a number of things. And so that's the sort of idea, is to constantly be pulling a crop out and having another crop already growing. That's the whole everbed system. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on everbedding, so look for that in a couple weeks. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you get that notification if you're at all interested. If you're still watching this video, then I think you may be into it. Tell me how you guys intercrop. What are your favorite intercrop combinations? Are you guys doing the 3 sisters? Is it working well for you? Are you guys doing 2 sisters? Are you using beans to, fertilize something else? Is that working out? Are you seeing a yield increase? Anyway, let me know. Tell me about it. I want to hear more. I want more ideas. I need more ideas. So don't forget to like this video. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. Like I said, our little bobble face will pop up and you can click on that. That'll get you to the subscription thing. Yeah, hit the subscribe button. I honestly don't even know who subscribes to our channel because it doesn't tell me unless you make your subscriptions public. So hit the subscribe button. I won't even know. I'll just see that little number go up and that gives me a little jolt of endorphins, and who doesn't love that? All right, you all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all later. I'm being stalked.